Hi Siri, I'm looking for a new podcast, one that preferably is hosted by a UF Hall of Famer, one that airs every weekday that would bring me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions. Siri, is there such a show?
Have you heard of PodUp with Matthews in the morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any podcast platform?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? UF Hall of Famer Shane Matthews has a show every weekday. I'm going to go check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Siri.
Today's show, we are off. We'll be back live tomorrow on Tuesday. But today, you're going to listen to some Gator legends. That would be Jack Youngblood and Carlos Alvarez. Sit back and enjoy. We'll see you live tomorrow. Let's welcome Jack Youngblood to the program. Good morning, Jack. How are you?
What's going on?
Not much. We appreciate you taking some time to join Matthews in the morning. Jack, what I like to talk to all the former athletes, let's go back, way back when you were a youngster, up in Monticello.
That's a long way back, brother.
Long way. So try to think back. You were a great football player. Did you play any other sports in high school?
Played a little baseball. But then the coaches kind of directed me in a different direction, and said you need to stay over here rather than going over this place.
I gotcha. Well, when you look at obviously Ray Graves was the head coach at Florida when you came out. What other schools recruited you pretty heavily, and did you always want to be a Gator, or were there other schools that you thought about going to?
What was another school? I'm not sure. I understand you.
I got you.
Shane. There was only one offer.
Okay.
To go to school, and it came at as we were winning the championship in 1966. When Class B championship, and a gentleman grabbed me by the arm and said, Jack, how would you like to be a Florida Gator? I said, let me think about that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There was only one scholarship offer, and I had no idea about it.
That's pretty cool. How big were you when you signed your scholarship as a defensive lineman? Well, you were a linebacker in high school. How big were you though when you signed your scholarship?
I was I was 6'4", and I had grown real fast in those 4 years in high school. But I only weighed about 215 pounds. I mean, I had my ears, were looked like they were aircraft worker. So, I mean, I was skin and bones. I put on 45 pounds in the 4 years that I was there in Gainesville.
So when you came here, Jack, obviously you came in as a linebacker. They moved you down to defensive end. I was reading a little bit. What's surprising to me is you were also the kicker. Like when you got ready to kick a field goal, did they have to call timeout for you to go put the old school square toe shoe on?
Absolutely. I was the middle linebacker. I was the defensive end. I was the kicker. I was the backup punter, and I was the backup snapper. I figured out that that if you could do several things, coach will keep you around for a while.
Right.
And I mean, I used to, I kicked a game-winning field goal in the opening ball game in Houston when I was a senior. I mean, it was, and then I got a ball blocked when I was at the Senior Bowl. And they're not supposed to rush the passer. I mean the kicker, and I got the ball blocked. That's hard to do.
Yeah. Jack,
oh my goodness.
We've got a text here on the Titan our text line from George. George wants to know, what was your favorite rivalry game to play in as a Gator?
Georgia. Yeah, going up to Jacksonville, the excitement that was, it was out of town, and it was a huge emotional ball game. It was for the right of the state. Who was going to be dominant that year. It was going through our mind as the players. Going to Jacksonville and playing in the Gator Bowl was really a big one, and Florida State was too. We spanked their fanny 4 times. So I mean we got the better end of that deal.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're speaking with Jack Youngblood on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. If you got a text for him, you can send it to 352-353-7465 or send in a question on Facebook Live. Jack, you had a great career here at the University of Florida. You get drafted by the Rams. You go in there. I want to say Deacon Jones, who was one of the great defensive linemen of all time, was there. They ended up trading him away. Tell us a little bit about Deacon Jones. Did y'all get along? Did he help the youngster out? Because sometimes those veterans in the NFL don't want to help the young guy out, and there are some that do. How is it playing with Deacon Jones?
Shane, I've said this all of my career, ever since I was drafted by the Rams. I've always loved both Deacon and Merlin Olsen. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for those 2 guys, I probably wouldn't have been the player that I became. Both of them, at one point in time in that first year as a rookie, they put their arm around me and said, "Son, you can play, but you've got to let us show you how to play." And I became all ears at that point. I said, "Thank you," and yes, sir. They were sirs. They were still my elder when I got to LA, and both of them were just tremendous athletes and tremendous human beings. Loved them both.
We got another text here on the Titan Tomorrow text line. It comes from Fred. And Fred says, Jack, you were a Gator when they were introducing the drink Gatorade. How was it when you were here?
Yeah. Gatorade, it was horrible. I mean, good gracious alive. It was something that they made in the locker room, in the training room every morning. And it literally was made in a number 10 wash tub, and they would change the recipe just a little bit here and there, trying to get it just right. We'd be on the sideline, and that number 10 wash tub was right there, and we had 10 cups that we would go over to the to the wash tub and dip us a cup full. We're having a little scrimmage going on, and Mike Kelly, my middle linebacker, who I love dearly, although he took my position, and and Mike went over and dipped his cup in, and he started chugging, and he fainted, and he fell over backwards. I mean, just like somebody had shot him. And we're all standing around him, and everybody's looking at their cup and going, "Oh, hell no, we're not drinking that anymore." The cold knocked Mike out. It wasn't the Gatorade, it was the cold.
Let's go back to the Rams. You were fortunate enough to play in 5 NFC championship games. You made it to 1 Super Bowl. But let's talk about the NFC Championship game where they put you in a brace with a broken leg. How in the world? I know you're a tough dude now, and I've seen defensive linemen play with broken arms and wrists or what have you. But how in the world did you play with a broken leg?
It was not pretty. Let's put it that way. It was not pretty. It was one of those issues that I had lived all along. I was the captain of the football team, and it was my responsibility to try and do anything and everything I could do to give us an opportunity to win and to win a championship. It was very painful. There's no question about that. And it was one of those issues where it was, if you're there, if I'm there, my guys are going to follow me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the principle behind it. It wasn't about whether I could get around the corner and sack Terry Bradshaw. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't about that. It was about leading our football team, and we did a pretty good job. Although in that fourth quarter they scored 2 touchdowns on us and won the Super Bowl 14. But it was all about leadership and trying to help my football team win the ball game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, Jack, you played a long time in the NFL, and everyone's goal is to get and win a Super Bowl. I mean, you play in 5 NFC Championship games. You only get to 1 Super Bowl, and unfortunately, you lose it. What was it like, though, getting to that Super Bowl, and how long did it take you to get over that loss to the Steelers and Terry Bradshaw?
Well, to get over it, that lingered a while. We got knocked out 4 times. Twice by Minnesota and twice by Dallas, and we finally got there in '79. And that scar lasted a little bit longer than the other ones. In the other ball games, the championship ball games, it lasted a little longer because we firmly believed we could win. And you got to remember, they had 3 rings already. Terry had won 3 Super Bowls. So that was something that they realized what the issue was about, and that was the first time we'd gotten there, and it was very important for us to we made the issue come alive. We could play with them, and we made them understand that we could play at your level.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a while. It took a while to get over those emotions.
Yeah, I'm sure. We got a question here on a Facebook Live brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorney. Dan wants to know, there have been movies about how hard and physical some of those old practices were at Alabama with Bear Bryant. Was it like that too when you were at Florida back then? And also, how tough were your Rams practices back in the day?
Well, the main thing about practice was the weather conditions. To be honest, I mean, you had to be in shape, and they were a little bit physical. I mean, we in college and with the Rams, they were a little bit physical, but the issue really was the weather, the climate, and whether or not you could go out and play and not lose 15 pounds of water. And that has happened several times with a lot of players back in the day.
Jack, talk a little bit about you were the first Gator to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I believe that was in 2001. Talk about how special that was. I mean, you're in the Florida Ring of Honor, you're in the Rams deal, you're in the College Football Hall of Fame, but every player's ultimate goal is to make it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Talk about how special that was for you.
That was a big day. There's no question about that. And there was when you played in the game, you come through college, you come through school, and you get the opportunity to go to an NFL team, which I had no idea who I was going to. I mean, it's not the draft is nothing back in my day like it is today. It's a different world of how it operates. And then to go along and to be there for 14 years and not miss a ball game until the last year, until the 14th year. I mean, I played in 201 consecutive ball games.
Wow.
And that might not have been smart, but I mean, but that I had the passion and the love of the game, and then to get and to be on that list, just to be nominated for the Hall of Fame was truly in my mind was enough. Just to be nominated for it. That says, yeah, you were pretty good. You're a pretty good player. Well, and then to have people like Merlin Olsen and Deacon Jones, be my mentors. That really was an honor that I could play. I could play at their level.
No doubt about it. Well, that's a tremendous honor. There's no question about it. We're speaking with Jack Youngblood here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. We got another Facebook Live question for you from Todd, brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Todd wants to know, what was your favorite Gator game that you played in? One that stands out the most.
Oh my goodness. Let me think about that. I mean, we played Georgia. No, I'm sorry. We played Tennessee up there my senior year, and they had this. This always has stuck in my head. They had the people who made their jerseys. I'm not sure what company it was at that point. I should remember it. But they used a fabric that was kind of acid treated, and it was a tearaway. Mm-hmm. And I came around the corner, and I can't remember the quarterback's name right now. But anyway, I came around the corner and I reached in and I slapped him right in the chest and grabbed that jersey and snatched it. And off came his number, and I'm standing there with nothing but his number off the front of his jersey. And then I went, damn, I got to get more than this. That was a heck of a ball game. Going up to Tennessee was something else. It was an experience.
When you go back to your pro career, was there one offensive lineman, left tackle, right tackle, what have you, that you did not want to have to face, that you just dreaded going into that week?
None of them.
None of them. Okay.
I didn't fear any of them. They, in fact, I looked forward to playing against Rayfield Wright, Ron Yeri, oh my gosh, Dan Deerdorf. Those were the best ones back in the 70s and 80s. And they brought the best out of me. When you're playing against the best, you better have your game together.
Right.
And I enjoyed that. And it created a relationship with those guys from that point forward. We've been tremendous friends ever since we put on our helmets and tied the cleats. We've been really good, and I literally enjoyed playing against the best.
Jack, I got this question. You played obviously all your career with the Rams, and then when Coach Spurrier, he's a little bit older than you. He was basically a backup behind John Brody with the 49ers, and y'all being in the same division. Did you ever get a chance to blindside old number 11 Coach Spurrier?
Yeah, and he didn't like it. He didn't like it. We were up there. We were in San Francisco, and he was playing. Something was wrong with Brody, and Steve was playing, and I knocked him down a couple of times, and about the third time I got in the backfield with him, knocked him down, and he goes, Jack, why are you so mean to me? And I went, because you got the ball in your hand, damn it.
That's good stuff.
It was, and we both just started laughing.
You have a pretty good relationship with Coach Spurrier because he's a different character now.
Yeah, kind of. They sometimes quarterbacks have, and I know you were one, my man, too. But there was something about a quarterback that they had an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been my perspective because I was a defensive lineman, and my job was to sack the quarterback, take him out of the ball game. We off the field we did. We had a good relationship.
Good deal. So, Jack, I don't know how much you follow the Florida football program now. Obviously, Coach Spurrier came in. We did some wonderful things under his leadership. Had some down years. Urban came in. We won 2 national titles. Then another lull. And now Dan Mullen, in his 2 years here, we won 21 games, won 2 major bowl games. From afar, what have you seen that you like about Dan Mullen, what he's done with the football program?
I think Dan's done one heck of a job putting this thing back together and winning what he needs to win. As long as Dan is winning the Eastern Conference, the Eastern Division, I should say, and moving forward, we're going in the right direction. And the thing that I love about what Dan's doing is that it's not really just about the athleticism of his players that he's bringing in. It's their character. He's bringing in both athletes and good people, and that will pay big dividends for us for a long time.
No doubt. Talk a little bit about when you were inducted to the Ring of Honor. There's only a handful of Gators up there and only a handful that qualify. How special was that for you to have number 74 put up in the swamp for the rest of lifetime, pretty much?
That was another one of those those days that they're really almost unbelievable, and you experience them and you appreciate them, and sometimes you question them. You go, how in the world did I do that? But it was one of those moments in your career that you really appreciate, because it reminds you of the great days that we had there in Gainesville.
When you go back, whether it was college or pro, as a defensive lineman, and your job was to sack the quarterback on passing situations. Was there a quarterback in college and also in the National Football League that you just were licking your chops and you couldn't wait to just bury him? Who were some of those guys, if you don't mind telling us? Some of those guys that you
Fran Tarkenton.
Fran Tarkenton.
I mean, there's no question about that. I'm still looking for him. When we get together, and we do several times a year, we get together and we'll be at a cocktail party or something, and he'll be having a conversation, and I'll walk up and I'll just put my arm around him and kind of just squeeze his shoulder just a little bit and go, one of these days I'm gonna get you. and we both just start laughing. and he was, he and Roger were very elusive. They were hard to catch. In fact, I think Roger had eyes in the back of his helmet somehow. I mean, he used to have that reverse out move. The clock would go off in his head when he knew that 2.3 seconds is all I have here, and he would reverse out and cause all kind of problems for somebody that was coming, in the opposite direction, trying to catch him.
So we want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hey dads and kids, join head coach Billy Napier at the Gainesville All-Pro Dad Experience, Saturday, April 22nd at 9 a.m. at the University of Florida Sanders Practice Facility and Fields. Learn fatherhood tips and participate in activities with your kids while rotating through stations on the field. It's only $25 per family, so register today at allprodad.com/events. The Gainesville All-Pro Dad Experience is brought to you by the Florida Department of Education, Dairy Council of Florida, and Tyson.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. Making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Well, happy Wednesday to you, Seth Harp on Sports. Kyle Crooks, the voice of Gator Athletics, with us here on PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Both of us courtesy of the Titan MRI hotline. And you joining us courtesy of Facebook and Facebook Live. And, of course, if you have a question for us, fire away courtesy of Meldon Law, the only official injury law firm partner of the Florida Gators. All right, Kyle, here we are. Midweek, we got a spring game tomorrow in which we have no idea what to expect. Probably the most amount of turnover of a Gator football program in terms of, specialty positions, with the exception of running back that we've seen in a long time. But to me, spring games are one of those things you don't know what you have until you have it. These things were a much bigger deal 10, 15 years ago. But now with Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you have access, videos coming out of practice every single day. So now you actually get to see things that you didn't get to see 15, 20 years ago. So what's hurt spring games and what killed the luster of them, Kyle? I think social media and access to these guys more often is kind of killed. It's kind of like when I was a kid, and it was always a big deal when I watched the Major League Baseball All-Star game and you got to see somebody that was a Seattle Mariner, or you got to see somebody that was a Minnesota Twin, or you got to see, oh my gosh, and now trying to explain that to the next generation, it's kind of lost in the shuffle. I want to get to a bunch of other Gator sports, but when it comes to football, I don't know what I'm going to have for you, gang, until I get to watch what we see Thursday night. But I wanted to do this. Baseball won again last night. And they won in grandiose fashion, even though Florida State's not very good. And to come back and win like that against a rival at home, you start to stockpile wins. But it's another come-from-behind win. They are finding ways to win baseball games, which is a good thing. In order to win, you need pitching, hitting, and defense. Not all three. You need two of those three. And what do they have right now? They have they have defense and hitting. Kyle, the fact that they have to come back from behind against Florida State, the fact that they had to come back against Auburn, they have all these comeback wins. Kyle Crooks, a sign of resiliency for you, or is the Scarecrow playing with fire here?
Yeah, I think last night, Seth, was their 14th from behind win of the year, to your point. Playing with fire a little bit. I think it shows a little bit of both. This team is equipped to make a deep run. I think there are some concerns. We've talked about the bullpen a lot. Neely last night. Neely's outstanding in that closer role. Now there's more issues that have come about over the last couple of weeks. I think Caglione in that Sunday starter role, he's had issues throwing strikes. Do they change who starts that third game of an SEC series? There are certain things that you want to look at with this team that are concerns. Now, I would say that Florida State, the last 3 years in Gainesville, has been some sort of comeback. I think they've had walk-offs the last two games in Gainesville. And then yesterday, Ty Evans hits the 3-run home run in the eighth inning, very reminiscent to the, while not a walk-off, but the Kendrick Calilau home run a couple of years ago in Gainesville. So I would argue the fact that the Florida State games, regardless of record, it's a cliche. Throw out the records when these two get together. But it almost seems that way because Florida State's had an awful year. I mean, I don't know what kind of their record was going in. I have to look back at it. But, they've had a really rough stretch. But it just seems like they always play tight games. I think when you get in the postseason, I know this from softball, regionals, super regionals, they're always a run in their differential in the seventh, eighth in baseball, ninth. You have to find a way to win close games. As I get older now, Seth, I tend to look at the glass half full, right? So let's try to do that with this team. They find ways to win. Yes. They find themselves behind, but they have the lineup. I would not want to be that pitcher that has to go up against that lineup in the 8th and the 9th inning with a 1 or 2 run lead. Not me. So
Yeah.
I'll take glass half full.
Yeah, there are not too many outs. You get to that stage of because you see this now with teams like, do we bring our quote unquote closer in the 7th inning to face 2, 3, 4, as opposed to wait till the 9th inning? And if you don't bring him in to see 2, 3, 4, then you may be down 3 runs by the time you get a crack at him in the 9th. So they find a way. They win the season series again, and he's a good coach. The guy at Florida State, because he came from Notre Dame. I don't know why his name. I want to say
Lake Sharon.
Yeah, Lake. Because when you can get people to come play in South Bend, where you ready for this, Kyle? Last night it was 48 degrees.
Oof.
And you can
you know that area well.
Yeah, can you get people to come? Link Jarrett's this is gonna be fun watching this rivalry. And I know over the course of the last few years, it's kind of sunk because Florida State has sunk, and so is Florida, right? But Florida's had this resurgence this year. And Link Jarrett will win there. I mean, if you can take Notre Dame to the College World Series, if you can get people to come to South Bend where it doesn't become 70 degrees until May, and you can get people to come and play there, and Kyle, play enough in that weather that you can be around in late June, you're a pretty good baseball coach. So he'll turn it around. And again, I always try to tell people this. I understand when you're a fan of a team, you want your rivals to suck and not be any good. College baseball is better when Florida State's good. And it's kind of one of those things that I look back to the late 90s. College baseball was better when Southern Cal was good. College baseball was better when Stanford was good. College baseball is better when Texas is good. Well, it's like any other sport. The Blue Bloods, when they're better, they're better. So there we go. But it got me thinking with Gator baseball and the way they won, just where we are in sports right now. And you cover, teams on a daily basis. You have been around this program more intimately than I have in terms of play-by-play and getting to know people. I wanted to create my Gator Sports Gauntlet to me, which is right now the best programs at the school right now. It'd be almost like if you're looking, who are the 5 best quarterbacks in the game of football? According to Carson Palmer, Joe Burrow, right, is better than Patrick Mahomes. So this is my Gator Sports Gauntlet. These are the 5 best sports programs at the University of Florida right now. Not best seasons, best sports programs. 1 is track and field, 2 is gymnastics, 3 is tennis, 4 is softball, 5 is baseball. Kyle Crooks. That's the Harp on Sports hierarchy, or the Gator Sports Gauntlet. The top 5 sports programs at Florida. 1 track and field, 2 gymnastics, 3 tennis, 4 softball, 5 baseball. What say you?
I like that list. I think there's no way you can't have track and field 1. Well, it's not in the consciousness of all the Gator fans constantly. I mean, it's almost like you look up and they're winning another national championship, whether indoor or outdoor. So I would go track and field 1 at the moment. Gymnastics is good. I think they have, with the health of Trinity Thomas, we'll see what their prospects are to win a national championship here. But the consistency that Jenny Rowland has had with gymnastics and the dominance that they've had in such a tough sport that's very fickle, and one mistake can ruin a whole meet. I would go with gymnastics too. I think softball and baseball are pretty interchangeable. If we're talking at the moment and the history, you're putting together the success in the current season plus what they've done in the past. I would say, so 3, you put tennis at 3, right?
Yeah. The best program, because you can sit here and I'll give you an example. Kyle, let me take a step back. If I were putting together the best programs in college football right now, you could make a case that Clemson's in the top 5, but they didn't have a top 5 season this year.
Yeah.
See, that's kind of what I'm doing. Like if you look back at last year.
I would probably go maybe softball 3. I think the consistency we kind of forget.
I know.
And I'm biased because I cover softball on a daily basis and I see Tim all the time. But the consistency of what they've done, right, and getting to World Series with teams that have not been that great. They, coming up for Tim Walton, the 2010s, 11s, 12s, 09, 08, They had teams that won 70 games and 65 games and went 20. And my first year here, they won 20 games in the SEC. Like, those days are so far gone, right? You're 6-6 in the SEC at the moment, and you're saying, like, okay, we still have a lot ahead of us. But the thought of being 6-6 through 12 games in softball here was a foreign thought like 7-8 years ago. Like, the sky would be falling. Now it's pretty normal. Softball 3, baseball 4. Because I don't know as much about tennis here, I'll put tennis 5. But obviously, the success they've had and the success that Ben Shelton's having at the professional level, I would go that with that's my 5.
You want to make some headlines? Now, Kyle, give me your 3 worst programs.
I like my job.
Kyle Crooks, Seth Harp with you here. PodUp with Matthews in the morning on this Wednesday. Brought to you in part by QC Kinetics. You have joint pain, shoulders, hip, neck, back. Won't go away. You need to check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief, not surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics with locations in Ocala. Now open in Gainesville, of course, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. Okay, so here we are. We start to look ahead. Softball has a big series this weekend. Baseball has a big series this weekend, and softball tries to get back above 500. I want to ask you some softball questions, Kyle, since you are front and center, right? 2 best teams in the conference next 2 weekends?
Yeah, Georgia, Tennessee.
Right, Georgia and Tennessee. Okay. I just the way those teams are playing right now. 3-3 is successful run in those 6 games?
Yeah, I would say so. If you come out of that 6-game gauntlet at 500 in the SEC, you still have Ole Miss and Kentucky in the final 2 weekends. I think you set yourself up pretty good. I think the top 2, there's a clear line of delineation between the top 2, Tennessee and Georgia. And I don't know if you saw last night, but Tennessee blew out Virginia Tech, run rolled them. It was like 11-0. Virginia Tech's really good. Gators played Virginia Tech in the Super Regional last year. And that series for the Gators next weekend is going to be on the road. Georgia this weekend is a very good offensive team. Pitching wise, they brought in a transfer, Shelby Walters from Duke, kind of their ace. But you look at their offensive numbers right now, Seth, and they pop off the page. They've hit 63 home runs. It's like 15 more than the next most in the SEC. They hit 107 home runs last year, which was a program record. They bring back essentially that core. And for the Gators, their biggest question mark, although we saw some questions answered, I would say a little bit in the affirmative, in a positive way against Auburn. Hightower pitched well. Trilicek pitched well. Alexi Delbray pitched really well on Saturday. So now you go up against this Georgia lineup that came into Gainesville in 2021 that brings back a lot of those players that beat the Gators in 2 games in a best-of-3 Super Regional and outscored the Gators along the way 10-0. So this would be, and Tim Walton talked yesterday and he said, I haven't forgotten those losses we had in 2021 or the Super Regional to Georgia, that loss in 2016. So there is going to be that somewhat hanging over the shoulder of this Florida program. And there are plenty of members of this Gator team that were a part of that 2021 Super Regional. So it's a Gator team right now that has a lot in front of them in terms of, like you said, the top 2 teams in the SEC. We don't necessarily know where they're going to land, but the conversation around the team can change drastically over the next 2 weekends if they find a way. The thing about the Gators is they are very capable offensively, which we haven't been able to say in the past. They are very capable to put up crooked numbers. They're going to have to do that. In order to win this series, find a way to win 2 of 3 against Georgia, you are going to have to put up crooked numbers because they leave the ballpark at a very high clip. This is an explosive offense. Credit to Tony Baldwin, who's taken over when Lou Harris-Champer retired after they got to the World Series in 21. They are, man, and I'm actually going to talk to their coach a little bit later today. They are an elite offense, and can the pitching staff live up to that challenge this weekend? We're going to find out. And the next 2 weekends are going to be a gauntlet, like I said.
Of course, you'll hear Gator softball tonight on ESPN 98.1 FM, 850 AM WRUF. 5:50 pregame coverage begins. Tonight going to be a 10-run job?
Yeah. I hope UNF's not listening, but it's a team that has struggled to pitch. And they're coming off, Seth, a really good year. They won 42 games, 16 in the ASUN, and that's something they have not done in the past. They have essentially a new head coach, but they just have not swung it well. And I'm thinking this is going to be a 5-inning. I hope, so I can get back home and watch some NBA games or something. But I think it's a 90-minute 5-inning job here tonight.
It's too bad, watching it last night and, NBA basketball, they play at such an elite level. It's such a high level. It's one of those things that, and I made a mention yesterday. I got people blowing up my Twitter because I said, I can't find a Magic fan for the life of me. I can't. And I get tweets coming in, said, I'm a Magic fan and I live in Gainesville. It's like, you're the one. But because I was just talking about the franchises that are most hopeless in sports. And I don't know if you're a Magic fan, what on earth you'd be excited about right now, especially with the way the NBA is going. The only franchise I thought that may be in worse shape is the Pittsburgh Pirates. But even they went out and swept the Red Sox. So there you go on that front. Again, Kyle Crooks, Seth Harp with you here. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Of course, a service and brought to you in part by Ruse-Ogra State Farm Insurance. Ruse-Ogra State Farm office. It's a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help you and your life go in the right direction with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ograinsurance.com. Give them a call. 352-240-1779. That's 352-240-1779. Tampa Bay Rays.
10-0, right?
10-0. Undefeated. Won again last night, so 11-0 as they beat the Red Sox.
11-0, yeah.
It's the best start since 1987. I was thinking about this. You look at the success the Lightning have had. You look at the success that I know the Bucks took a step back this year, but that's 3 straight postseason berths. I know that they have some issues right now that they're dealing with that organization. And now where Rays baseball is, I cringe to ask this because, LA, there's so many other teams in other big cities. But top to bottom with the big 3.
Well, Boston's up there too for, recent, overall success. I know the Red Sox have been down recently, but if you're talking about the last, 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, if the Rays win the World Series, now I'm playing this if game, right? That'll be 3 major sports championships in 3 different sports in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's close.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who else is in that boat.
Yeah, and I bring up the Boston reference, but obviously the Patriots the last couple seasons, the Red Sox have not been good. The Celtics have a chance.
Yeah.
That's the only one I can think of in recent memory that has been, Boston was very dominant in all 3 major sports and having a chance to win a championship. That's the only one in recent memory. But you look at the success of the Lightning, the Bucks winning a Super Bowl in that COVID season, having a down year, but still, making the playoffs. Trying to think. And then, the crazy thing about the Rays is, they play in a ballpark, which is, not very good to be kind. And, it always seems like there's conversation that they're going to leave Tampa at some point, but they still haven't. I think they're going to get a new ballpark at some point, right?
That looks like it.
But the fact that they consistently churn out 90-win seasons with a payroll that's not equivalent to the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, it's an incredible team organization to be studied because they don't have these high payroll guys, and you look at their lineup and say, who's this guy? Who's that guy? That guy's a nice player. All of a sudden, you look at the end of the year and they've won 96 games. It's like, how in the hell have they done this? And 11-0 start, my Yankees have a chance to win a series today against Cleveland, and they're already, like 4 games back in the division. So I would say there's overall, in terms of a championship city, credit to the Lightning who have carried a lot of that. I don't think anybody's close right now in terms of success.
I know the Dodgers won a World Series during COVID. The Lakers won
They did.
NBA title during COVID. But it's not like the Kings. In LA, you got 7 teams to choose from, right? Because technically the Angels and the Ducks play within 2 miles of each other. So it's just one of those things that, when you have multiple teams, kind of like New York, where you have 8 professional teams, obviously the chances of you competing are at a higher level. But it's just fascinating. Jared, courtesy of the Titan MRI text line, it said Kansas City, the Royals in 2015, the Chiefs.
The Royals World Series is a little distant. 7 years. And I followed that closely because I was, living in New Jersey at the time, and that was the Mets World Series appearance. I don't think that's on the level or close on the level of Tampa Bay. I really don't.
Titletown, USA.
I mean, it really is. And, you joke around, but, they should be really proud of that. Every time we go to Tampa, they have the banners for the Lightning of, like championship, champ city and all that stuff.
Maybe the Magic can move to Tampa and have a shot to do in the NBA postseason. I just thought it was amazing. They're just the run that they're on and how they're doing it, and how they do it is this. And this is one of these things that I wish other people understood and adapted. What they do is they sit around and they go, okay, this is what we are. We don't have the money or the payroll. So what they do is, when you have guys like Evan Longoria that are still good but have a couple years left, they look around and go, okay, I'm going to trade you for 3 or 4 more prospects and try to get something in return for you while I can. And they never get old or stale because they're forced never to get old or stale. So what they do, they're serial daters, Kyle. They don't get married. They're like, wait a second, why am I going to do this? Why am I going to tie myself down to one thing? Like, because they don't have the option to do that, though. They're like nomads, right? So it's been extremely successful for them. They have no other choice. But they're a prime example. They're the best run organization. I don't know how you can say that they're not the best run organization in baseball, because they're always in the bottom 5 of payroll, and barring a major collapse, this will be their 5th straight postseason appearance.
It's incredible. And they bring players to the brink of superstardom, and then they get rid of them because they can't afford them. And it's not because maybe that's how they want to operate. That's maybe not how the fans want things to operate, but how could you argue? They've always found a way to replenish through their farm system and be at the top of a division with the Yankees in it and the Red Sox all those years when the Red Sox were good. And it pains me to say the Red Sox are terrible now as a Yankee fan.
I know. I mean, look at all my fun stuff back here, and good God. Even watching that last night, I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I mean, Red Sox fan, it's April 12th, and I'm like, good night. Hey, what do you know? It's also the 111th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. It makes sense that the Red Sox have been mathematically eliminated already. And here we are, not quite, but close enough. PodUp with Matthews in the morning, brought to you in part by Comfort Temp. Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is the promise. Summer on the way. When's the last time your AC was tuned up? Time is now before the summer heat wave kicks in. Give Comfort Temp a call, 352-376-2366. That's 352-376-2366. So there we go. Again, PodUp with Matthews in the morning. He is Kyle Crooks. I am Seth Harp. Softball tonight, UNF coverage will begin at 5:50 on ESPN 98.1 FM, 850 AM WRUF. And, we get softball again on the weekend as well. I think it's the day game on Saturday, right, Kyle?
Yeah, yep.
As we stagger baseball and softball back the best we can over the course of the next few nights. And, of course, we have the spring game tomorrow night that you'll hear on the radio as well. You can watch it in person. Don't know what we're going to see. And I don't know
Supposed to
what's
rain
going on.
too. That's the whole other part of this spring game is there's 90% chance of rain. So last year they saw an awesome turnout for Napier's first spring game. It's definitely going to damper what the turnout is going to be for this, which is a shame because I think some good weather. I think you'd have a really good crowd because there's a lot of the good thing. What drives spring game crowds is the curiosity, right? That you talked about at the start. And there's a lot of curiosity of this team of, okay, what do they look like? What are some of the things we can expect, especially from the most important position, that the quarterback position in Graham Mertz and Jack Miller. And apparently that is somewhat of a quarterback battle at this point. So that curiosity drives that attendance and that viewership. But it looks like, at least for now, when I looked at the weather, and I was supposed to do a pregame show like on the field or whatever, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen now because of the weather. So that's a shame, but I'm excited because it's football. It's somewhat of a game. It's helmet on helmet, put it on TV, on the radio. I love football on the radio, so I'll be listening and listening to Sean and the crew. So it'll be fun. Hopefully the rain doesn't ruin it all, though.
We'll see. I know that I did have one text asking me about the new collective that's been creative as the Gator Collective Exit Stage Right. And I want to make sure I get this name right before we wrap this up. And what a new collective or a new body means to paying the athletes and what it'll mean going forward. The way I look at it, Florida Victorious is what it's called. Rebranding, reiteration. What does it mean? Well, hopefully this go round, they'll approach athletes with the mindset of here's some money, here's some marketing ideas, rather than come to Florida. We're awesome. Right. And so this will be interesting to see what this approach is. Guys, I have no idea what it's going to mean until they sign their first person. All I know is they have a boatload of money. Now, in theory, I've heard upwards of $200 million to pay the athletes. That's great. Fantastic. I can't wait to see the first check cut is what I can't wait to see. And I've offered this up time and time again as the operations coordinator at ESPN Gainesville. We are open for business, baby. We are more than happy to host as many Gator athlete podcasts as you want. Give these guys their own show. We should have had the Anthony Richardson show on the station last year, but some of those things are out of my control, and I will take a step back because just like you said earlier in the Kyle, I enjoy my paycheck right now, and I